Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello everybody. Do you know any doctors that are willing to risk everything, including their career, to take on big pharma in order to improve drug safety and prevent adverse drug reactions? I know one, and you're about to as well. Welcome to This is Floxed on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Today, my special guest, Dr. Charles Bennett, has been fighting for fluoroquinolone toxicity awareness, also known as being floxed, and changes at the government level for many years now, and this has come at quite the cost. Dr. Charles Bennett is a hematologist and oncologist and chair of the Medication Safety and Efficacy at the University of South Carolina College of Pharmacy, and an affiliate investigator with the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Dr. Bennett's research focuses on preventing adverse drug events and improving drug safety. Along with his team, he is studying ways to make drug information more consumer-friendly and creating new training tools for healthcare providers. So there are 4 parts to Dr. Bennett's story that you need to know before we start the interview. Ready? Here we go. Number 1. Dr. Bennett is the very first physician ever to file a whistleblower lawsuit with any pharmaceutical manufacturer in the United States. This applies to all drugs, with the fluoroquinolone lawsuit representing the first ever of this type. The lawsuit alleged that the companies committed fraud on the Food and Drug Administration by not forwarding complete safety data related to permanent neurological and psychiatric toxicity associated with 3 of the most common fluoroquinolone antibiotics, such as levofloxacin, moxifloxacin, and ciprofloxacin. 2. Dr. Bennett and Linda Martin filed a citizen petition with the FDA in 2014 asking for more warnings of psychiatric adverse events to be added to fluoroquinolone labels. The FDA accepted the majority of the request in this citizen petition, resulting in important label changes. 3. Dr. Bennett testified at an FDA advisory committee hearing on fluoroquinolone toxicity in 2015, and they ruled in favor 20-1 to Dr. Bennett's findings. This led to the important 2016 label changes of permanent and disabling and last resort only. 4. Dr. Bennett was the sole plaintiff in Bennett versus Bayer Corporation. And even though the assistant U.S. attorney DOJ filed a court brief supporting Dr. Bennett's claim, the appellate court ruled against Dr. Bennett 3-0 in January 2025. And last but not least, Dr. Bennett's biography called Taking on Big Pharma, Dr. Bennett's Battle, received the support of the 2003 Children's Health Defense Fund. And if you want to know more details into all that I just told you, you can read the book. But for now, we're going to bring out Dr. Bennett.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hi, Dr. Bennett. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So I'm just going to roll off with a bunch of questions. I have so much stuff to talk to you about. This is the book that I was just mentioning. You can get it on Amazon. I just read this book a couple of days ago, and it's literally mind-blowing. It's something you would see in a conspiracy movie, but it is written about Dr. Bennett. It's not an autobiography, it's a biography. So the first question I want to ask is, there are people that say fluoroquinolone antibiotics, so like all other antibiotics and all medication have risks, blah, blah, blah. I think we both know that this class of antibiotics is definitely in a class of its own, since they have the most adverse events of any drug on the market. So what are your thoughts on when people make that statement, including the adverse reactions of fluoroquinolones?
Fluoroquinolones in particular, my voice transmitting, I hope well.
Yes.
They're particularly troublesome. They are used by 1 billion people over the last 40 years. And it wasn't these side effects that we've been talking about. His label is changed almost monthly with new side effects being identified. And so no drug has that it has black box warnings. The Europeans made a decision to make fluoroquinolones the last choice option for people who need antibiotics, and every other drug has to come first. That is unique, and that's telling. The United States followed Europe. Took us 4 years to catch up to Europe because there was a lot of hesitancy by Johnson & Johnson Bayer to actually change the label to reflect the concerns. And finally, the issues of the quinolone toxicity that we talk about, for instance, such as neuropsychiatric, which means that you have difficulty doing your checkbook, you have difficulty concentrating, you have difficulty keeping your tasks together, you have a lot of pain in your system. And the issue that we have shown, as you mentioned, with the FDA ruling 20 to 1 in our favor, is that these kind of symptoms occurred after 1 or 2 or 3 days, maybe, of 1 or 2 or 3 pills of the quinolones orally. And so for patients who a month or a week later who are found to have this toxicity, it's hard for them to remember or recall that they took 2 antibiotic pills and they're sick for 10 years. And it's been people like Linda Martin, we work with Talia and other people that have been critical because the patient is the key source of information on these data. It is not the typical idea of, okay, we're going to get a database. The patients are there, and it hasn't been until this syndrome has been formally recognized publicly, like people like Talia and Linda Martin and others, that there's been a connection between the drug and the toxicity.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it was pretty easy. My third pill in on my second day, I could no longer walk. 1 + 1 = 2, and even the emergency room doctor knew right away that, it was Cipro that had caused it. So I was someone that was affected very quickly and very severely. So that's why, I've been so vocal about this. Like I said earlier, I read your book and my mind was just mind blowing. And like I said, it seems like something like you would see in a movie, but it's real. So, I just going to give a little overview for the viewers watching is that, after you went and identified fatal risks in blockbuster drugs, one of them mentioned in this book is EPO. So it's nothing to do with fluoroquinolones. It's just drugs in general. It was obvious that you made very powerful enemies. And that is because coincidentally, after you did this, you were targeted in a False Claims Act lawsuit involving research grants at Northwestern University. You were forced out of your academic position. You almost lost your license and even paid a significant settlement. The FBI even investigated you, and then you were blacklisted by your community as a whistleblower. Now, most people at this point would be waving the white flag and would stop. But you didn't. Why? You continued to keep going, risking everything for all of us.
Well, it's very important to understand, as I tell people, is if I can save one life, I'm happy. So I think I've always done because it is important, this issue, and people like you, for 10 years before you, like you said, it was obvious. For 10 years before you, people had the same kind of symptomatology as you because it was not in the package insert until we made that change and forced the change in 2018. The doctor would say, I don't know what happened to you. You just had a bad day. So it's important at work is now, if you go back to the book for 1 second, I'm going to tell people something that they probably don't know. Can you go back to the book for 1 second? If you look at the book at the bottom of the book, and if we could make it a little bigger, you'll see the book is supported at the bottom by the Children's Health Defense Fund. And people might ask, what is a Children's Health Defense Fund and why is it on the cover of the book? Let me be clear about the Children's Health Defense Fund. They didn't co-publish a book. They're not the publisher. The Children's Health Defense Fund was led by a chap named Robert Kennedy Jr., who's now the Secretary of Health and Human Service. And before he took the job, he supported the book with the title of that because one of the things that he thinks is important in my story is that the Department of Justice, where he's been very strongly pointing out when he's at Secretary of HHS and before that in the Children's Health Defense, is it complicit in the cover-up and prevention of Cipro and fluoroquinolone toxicity. And so it's novel that the book here, with the active support of Bobby Kennedy Jr. when he was at Children's Health Fund, is saying explicitly one of the key barriers we've had is that the Department of Justice went overboard to try to make sure that my message and the patient message never got out. You can take the book off. Thanks.
Yeah, that's why I said it seems like something from a movie. You almost lost everything, and that's why I asked you that question, because it's not going to stop, right? I mean, I'm assuming they're still trying to stop this message from being, heard.
I think the issue is that we went with the case, and you mentioned a lawsuit. The Department of Justice filed an amicus brief, which is a friend of the court brief, saying that they verified that there has been fraud by Johnson & Johnson and Bayer against the FDA. That is a huge finding that the Department of Justice reported in the fraud, that they found fraud. Now, the reason why the case did not end up with a settlement or money is that the judges ruled 3-0 against the Department of Justice, that there was fraud. They said fraud does not come to the level of being something you can win in court unless it costs money to the government. We never claimed it cost money. We claimed it cost lives, people's health, people's lives. And so, as you said about what am I planning to do, I got a letter from received a letter from Sonia Sotomayor, and she gave me an extension to file an upgrade of my case to the United States Supreme Court. So we will never stop.
And this is because the attorney that you did have passed away from cancer. So now you're left with, right? Now you're left without an attorney to bring this forward to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, my attorney from Los Angeles, who helped me in the case from the very beginning 5-6 years ago, he initially had a sarcoma the first day I met him. I had him treated, and he got treated at Harvard and also at MD Anderson and at UCLA, and we had his cancer in remission for 4 years. We went forward, and then we went to the United States Appellate Court, the Third Circuit, and then when we lost, his cancer came back, and he could not help me with the appeal. Let me just say one more thing about this work, just to put it. The patients have been integral. I've worked with patients, Charles, you know that, and patients like Linda Martin. I have patients in North Carolina, patients in Chicago. They are committed, and they are, like you've done, to bring this message forward. That is huge. One other important thing is that I met a nice chap named Raja Fayed, who's an MD, on the plane about 7 years ago, 2014, that's 12 years ago. And he did the work to show that when you injected Cipro into mice, the mice immediately became neuropsychiatric. And that was one of the key information pieces that were found that presented to the FDA in 2015. The other thing we'll say, unfortunately for Raja, is a day after he presented his findings to me in an act of domestic violence, he was murdered. So I was lucky to get the findings from Raja one day before he died.
Oh my goodness. This is what I mean. Yeah. This makes me worried for you and other people doing this stuff too. Like in all of this legal action that you're doing, who are the people that you have to support you, like at your level, like other doctors and stuff like that? Or are they just like, I don't want to get involved because of all this stuff? Like, what is that like when you're trying to make this stuff happen, your support system?
Well, clearly, one thing I've done is get NIH grants. I've had about $5 million in NIH grants. It provides me teamwork of patients, as we mentioned, around the country, teammates and scientists around the country. But when I went to the FDA meeting in 2015, I sat by myself at the FDA meeting. Next to me was Ralph Nader, his group Sidney Wolf, and they were complaining and raised concern about Cipro and Levaquin and arrhythmias, cardiac arrhythmias. We had a different set of issues we went to. The other thing to make it clear is the whole process for me started in 2011 when the FDA had a meeting called the Safe Use Meeting, which was their attempt to allow patients to talk to the FDA directly about side effects. And I went to that meeting within my first 2 months of starting in South Carolina. And there was a patient there with wrists, John Fratty. He had splints on both wrists. He worked as a sales rep for Levaquin, and he said to the FDA directly that he cannot use his hands because he's been injured by the quinolones for years. And when he talked to the FDA directly, they did not really become interested in his case. So I took the case because I thought about it when I heard him, and we got to the patients like Linda Martin and John Fratty and David Melvin, you, Talia, and people in North Carolina. And it was with the patients that I got that, independent of the FDA, that we put the patients together. We put the laboratory study together. And my son, as a college student at the University of South Carolina, found a gene. That gene shows that when we looked at the gene, it was a high-risk gene for quinolone toxicity. So I'm fully invested in this. I have my son working on it.
So, because you bring up patients and anybody that may be watching, I think it's very hard for people to want to advocate because they feel like no changes are going to happen. Nothing's making a difference. A lot of people are sick. They can't physically do it. Or if they can physically do it, they just don't have hope. They're like, why bother? Nothing's going to change. It hasn't changed in all this time. But it has, just very slow increments. So my question to you is, what do you say to those people that want to help but feel like it's pointless?
What we've talked about is patients are huge. They're center, and the patient advocacy movement, like this show right now, or we also think patients should reach out to their local legislators, congressmen, and senators, and ask them, and what do we want? We want, for sure, one of the things we want is the quinolones should not be prescribed by any physician who does not want to spend the time and energy to understand the side effects and doesn't want to spend the time and energy to communicate that. What we think can potentially happen is every physician who wants to be a prescriber of these drugs has to be registered with the FDA. And if they are registered, they've agreed to present the side effects, and they agree that the patient will be informed, and they agree that they will understand the side effects. And they will be required to sign a note that says that they have done those things before the prescription. We've sent that citizen petition before to the FDA and been rejected. We're not done. And as Talia, the patients were important in getting the CDC just 6 months ago to get an ICD-10 code about Cipro toxicity. And the reason why that code is so important, and it was because the patients like you and some of the scientists came together to the CDC, that the code is now in the armamentarium of codes. And we have done follow-up with TriNet X data, which is a large data set, which is up to the minute. And we show that the number of uses of this code has gone from 0 steadily up. And so the patients are finally able to be coded having this side effect, which means that their medical care is covered and reimbursed. Thank you, patients. That is important.
Yeah, so that's why I try to say when, people reach out to me like, oh, what does it make a difference? Every little thing that we do makes a difference, and it adds up. Like you said, make sure we're getting the codes used, reach out to your, what'd you say, local senator and congressman and ask for these changes. I mean, you're obviously talking about informed consent when you're saying that the doctor has to be registered and you have to sign off, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what else can patients like me do to support you? Is there anything else?
Well, we wanted to, when the COVID epidemic happened, It wasn't months before there was research energy to COVID epidemic and for long COVID. Here we are, the issue of fluoroquinolone toxicity is much longer in duration than COVID. And we do not have a research fund yet to look at for why does quinolone toxicity happen, and what can we do to treat and ameliorate the problems of quinolone toxicity. And patients should be advocating to say, we're not second class to COVID patients, and we should have the same responsibility for research to help us get better and help us to prevent it and to treat it.
Especially in the case of COVID. COVID's new. People have been suffering from fluoroquinolone toxicity for 20 years now. Like, this has gone on way too long. And that's why I say we need to shout it from the rooftops, scream loud, be the what do you say, the squeaky wheel that gets greased, right? Just keep screaming. And I mean, that's obviously what I've done with my platform. But I just want people out there to know that no matter how little you think your contribution is, it does make a difference. Even if it's a post, even if it's forwarding something, even if it's sharing information, every little thing makes a difference. So don't think that it's not worth it. This is how change happens. It's so slow, but everybody has to do their part. Like Dr. Bennett, you can't do it alone all by yourself out there in the court system with no support. Like, we have to support you and other people that are doing this kind of work, because ultimately we're the ones that are going to benefit from it. The people that aren't sick yet and the people that are already sick. One of the questions I had, I didn't put this down, but now that I'm just thinking about it, is for the people that do get floxed, know they're floxed, what advice can you give them to have this conversation with their doctor that thinks that they're crazy and doesn't want to believe them? Should they just say, forget it? Should they argue with the doctor to get them to believe them? What should patients do in this situation?
Really hard, and that's why we want that research money and that research program. We'd like to see centers of excellence so that when this happens, it's not like you have to re-educate or educate all these physicians who are non-believers. If we had formally trained centers of excellence with research and clinical work together, and it was regionally available for everybody, we would love to see it happen. The second thing is, as you talked about, is when you reach out to me, many patients have reached out, Linda Martin, others. I've gone, and I'm always willing to go to meet with them and their congressmen and their state senators to talk about trying to get this platform move forward. And so it's been important. I've done that in North Carolina. I've done that with in Missouri, and we do that in South Carolina. So it is important. Patty Murray, who's a senator from Washington State, she heard our presentation, and she's the reason why the FDA convened that 2015 meeting. So it was Linda Martin and I who went to the U.S. Congress and met with 19 senators, 18 of us who didn't believe us, 18 did not believe us. And Patty Murray's team, for no reason, thought we had the right idea and called the FDA hearing. So it is that squeaky wheel.
Yeah. Do you want to talk at all about, because it's on your little banner down there too, what sonar is? Because I'm pretty sure people don't know what that is, and how it was so critical to your citizens' petition.
Thank you so much. In the NIH world of grants, the most important thing you can do in a grant, in order to get millions of dollars that I do in my research, is you must have a good acronym. So when I started my work at Northwestern, when I did my first 50 side effects, my acronym was called RADAR, Research on Adverse Drug Events and Reports. And then after the drug company moved me forward to file the lawsuit against me, because we were able to show that EPO was toxic to hundreds of thousands of people, I moved to South Carolina, and they would not let me take my name, Radar, with me. So I had to start my life all over again. My grants were gone, everything I started. So when I got down there, the first thing I did was generate a name, Southern Network and Adverse Reactions, SONAR. And then I got $2.5 million from the government. The SONAR group has 50 universities in the United States, patients all over the United States, and we meet on a weekly phone call every Wednesday at 3 o'clock to discuss issues that we're talking about here. And what we are going to push forward next, just to let you know, on citizen petitions, what citizen petitions are petitions by citizens to the FDA to do something. Now, citizen petitions are filed 95% by drug companies asking the FDA to harm or hurt their competitor. That's not at all a citizen petition. That's a drug company petition. What I have done in my work with Cipro and Levaquin and fluoroquinolones with Linda Martin and others is file that citizen petition you mentioned, which is a petition to the FDA. Our petition said, please change the label. I filed an initial citizen petition with Richard Blumenthal, currently a Connecticut senator, in 2005 on a different drug, on thalidomide, the most historically notorious drug. And 1 year later, our petition was upheld. In the world of citizen petitions of academic medicine, there have only been 5 successful citizen petitions in the last 20 years. I have 2 of them. 2 were written by Harvard, by Yale, that responded to my work and said they could copy it. And one was done by a citizen who ran a research grant who was filing on a related issue on EPO like me and was successful. So our new legislative effort is called Go Science, Government Support of Clinical Information and Effectiveness and Safety. Go Sciences. And what Go Sciences will require is the government to allow NIH-funded researchers like me to get an extra $50,000 to support a citizen petition on something like this. And if you get a $50,000 Go Sciences grant, the FDA is mandated to have the result of that grant, of that petition, back to the public within 12 months. The petition that you mentioned on our work took 4 years for a response.
Wow.
Under Go Sciences, we want it done in 12 months. That was 3 extra years of non-action.
Wow. When you went to the FDA advisory in 2015 and you testified there, I think that's the same meeting where is that the one where they named FQAD in fluoroquinolone toxicity?
A woman named Deborah Boxwell, she is the FDA epidemiologist, and she said, when she was asked about the FDA opinion, she said in the 20 years she's worked at the head of safety and epidemiology at the FDA, she has never found a side effect unless it's in a big data set with a statistical number. The only exception to that was a day that she was calling FQAD, fluoroquinolone associated disability. And she said she is calling this side effect only because patients' reports to the FDA were so vivid and so real. And she had never done this before in her life, but she called it FQAD. We've asked before the FDA to put FQAD in their labeling. They have not agreed to that. So FQAD was put out by Deborah Boxwell at the FDA, and you will not see it in any FDA or drug company labeling approval at all. And so it's been a disappointment because the FQAD was originally placed by the FDA, but not supported.
Yeah, it's in their file that they post online from the meeting, and they even write what the criteria is for FQAD and everything, but nobody acknowledges that. Do you think that will ever happen?
See, to me, the point is now that the patients were able to get the ICD-10 code, and the ICD-10 code, although they don't want to call it FQAD code, it is a synthesis of the toxicity related to the FQAD syndrome. And the most important thing about toxicity is getting the government, the Medicare system, the doctors to be able to provide care, and the patients to be able to get care, and to be able to get their care reimbursed by their insurance company. So the FQAD nomenclature would be a plus, but getting the ICD-10 code, which is only 4 or 5 months ago, as we showed, is increasing every minute by minute. And so it's important, as you asked me, what patients can do. When they see their physicians, they should make it clear to them that they have this syndrome. This is the ICD-10 code. Maybe you can put that up later. We can give them the actual code number, and that gets recorded on their medical records. Because then as it gets recorded in the medical records, people like me who look at large database claims files we'll see these cases go up and up and up. And here 4 months ago, there was no code. Now they're going up every minute. So patients must say to their doctor before they leave the office, I need to have in my record the ICD-10 code for fluoroquinolone toxicity recorded right there. And that way the insurance company and the data sets and the world will know that this toxicity is real and it's costing money. It's costing, because we lost our case because we were unable to show that the government was losing money. We only were losing that the people were being killed and injured. Now with the new code, the government is also losing money. And that may allow us to come back for another day, for another fight in the courtroom.
Can you give patients some tips on how to have that discussion with their doctor? Because, I talk to floxies every single day, and some of them go to their doctors and their doctors just change it. There's no arguments. And there's other doctors that are like, no, this is not an adverse reaction. It's an allergy, or it's a noted side effect, and they won't won't add the code. So what could they bring with them, or evidence or something, to get this code put into their records?
I think a really small, short piece of paper with the new code, the number, the description to hand to their physician right in person. Because physicians are unaware of the side effect and unaware of the code. So they say to the patient, you're just having problems with your own life. You're not having a good life. You have a lot of stress. It is not this. But now you say, I have this code right here, and I can't walk out of that office, your office, until this code is put into my medical records. So when I see my next physician, he's going to have that code and build off of that code to provide more care, because maybe I can't get the treatment I need for my syndrome here, but there are other physicians, they need to have complete records when they see you.
That's really good advice. I'd be like, I can sit here all day, so I'll just wait for you to put that in my records. I got lots of time.
You have to be, because you were saying, I'm going to probably see an expert in this syndrome. That's not that physician. That physician's got a lot of things to go on with diabetes, hypertension, all the other things. But you said, now we've got this whole thing organized. We have experts, and we want to make sure that our records are complete and comprehensive. So when our experts see us, they'll be able to know what to do for us.
How about the folks like you were talking about earlier that don't realize that 5 months later, they don't realize that they took those 2 pills? How can they bring that to their doctor and say, remember these 2 pills, without their doctor being like, okay, like, get out of here? Like, what advice do you give them that their symptoms happen so far after taking a fluoroquinolone?
That, again, a little small piece of paper, again, on the label. The label was changed because of the work we've done to say that some of these cases can occur weeks to months after the drug is given. Physicians aren't realizing that. Like you said, you had a 2-day experience and it was obvious. But the label has stated that, and that was part of the advocacy we had to change the label, that there are delayed onset of this toxicity. Nobody as a physician knows that. The patient has to show that. Say, doc, it's right in the label for the drug.
Yeah. So just for the viewers out there, I do have stuff on the infamous G drive that has all of these warnings, and I call it a information packet that I have actually printed myself and brought to the doctors and say exactly what Dr. Bennett is saying, the delayed reactions and all of that. So I urge you to check that out. You can go to my website or just reach out to me. I mean, everybody reaches out to me anyway. And yeah, I mean, you can go on my Linktree. I was like, what is this thing called? Linktree. And if I don't have the link there, I'll make sure I put it there after this interview. But it's always there during any of the events.
One of the things, Ty, that I think would be important for the patients is if you give the doc a 3-page memo, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I know how you put it. So I want to get it down to 3, 6, 9 lines that the doc can walk away from. There's a lot of things. That package insert is so busy now with so many side effects. It's hard to get the information across. Now, there's also a concern of suicide with the quinolones. That's an important concern, and I've been writing about that too. And we have written and published on that. And two ways suicide can happen. One is if you are injured by the quinolones for like 3, 5, 7 years, life becomes immediately or long-term impossible. And some people just get frustrated, and that's how the life ends. It's critical that we talk about that, and even including suicides as part of the quinolone toxicity. And that has to be there. Now, in the current package insert under suicides, it's on page 52 of the patient consent form of the label. Who's going to get to page 52?
Exactly. Yeah. They fall asleep by page 2.
They don't fall asleep. They don't read past page
Exactly. Exactly. Before I close out the show, what is anything else on your mind that you want people to know before we go? Anything that I haven't asked you or you just want to cover?
We want to be transformative. As you mentioned, I am the first physician ever to sue a drug company. So what it is, the reason why that's huge is, first of all, it took me, as you mentioned, almost all my life earnings, my retirement account. I am now in a pharmacy school. They kicked me out of a medical school, although I'm a hematologist oncologist boarded in hematology oncology. It's been a life mission and a life of passion. The thing that we hope to do is, of course, if that lawsuit ever comes back and we get that win, it will deputize physicians all over the country to be like me. That money that might come out, it might be $300 million. Most of it goes back to the government, but we want to make a big noise to side effects of drugs. And if this case goes through eventually, and the drug company pays $2 billion or $20 billion, that will make a statement that there'll be other people like Charlie Bennett. And that's what's important. We want to have a legacy. My son is fully invested in his career. He's in medical school, fully invested, did the gene. We need the next generation of people. And we want to encourage this collaboration with Linda Martin and you and others, the patients. We want to be there. We've done 50 TV shows all over the country. We're on the news. If patients get to their local news reporter and can get a chance to have a new local news report on their concerns, we'll be there with them on the news. We have 50 stations on TV. We'd like to be there. You've been on TV a bunch. That's continual bombarding the press and the public.
Right, right. Well, thank you for being here, Dr. Bennett, and I hope this was informative to everybody watching. I know that there's a lot of people that have been looking forward to this show and hearing from you. And anything we can do, you can let me know or whoever, and I can get it out to the masses in the future if you need any kind of help or yelling. I'm good at that. Just let me know. We're here to support you. And, I want to close out today by saying, thank you to you, Dr. Bennett, for being here. I've often been told that I'm seen as the face of fluoroquinolones and floxing. Do I wish I was the face of something more positive? Of course. But this is the hand that I was dealt. But make no mistake, the fact is not lost on me that people like Dr. Bennett and many others help pave the way for my advocacy efforts today, just like I'm paving the way for those that will come after me. This is why advocacy is so important. Even if it doesn't result in change, it at least sparks a conversation. Our advocacy is the legacy we leave behind, and others will carry the torch forward when we can no longer do it. So thank you to Dr. Bennett and everyone else that came before me who sacrificed so much to fight the good fight and protect other people from getting fluoroquinolone toxicity. Every little thing that each advocate does is a drop in the ocean. And if we keep at it, each of our little drops are going to turn into a huge tsunami. Thank you, Dr. Bennett. Thank you to everyone else. I will see you next month.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.